This week on Dance of Joy, we talk about Morgan Fairchild's latte, Dave Grohl's dinner, and Carl Lewis's dang-dongs. All that and more as we watch Season 3, Episode 22 of our favorite 80s hit sitcom, Perfect Strangers. Hello and welcome to Dance of Joy, a Perfect Strangers rewatch podcast. My name is Sophia. I am one of your hosts, and joining me as always is my co-host and my brother. What's up, Imran?
What's up, Sophia? I am good. Hey, did I ever tell you about that time I had lunch with Olympian Michael Phelps?
No, you didn't. Are you sure it wasn't just a random tall white guy with dinner plate-sized hands?
Well, I should explain by had lunch. What I mean is I bought him his Chipotle because he had seemed to have forgotten his wallet. Yeah, he was a middle-aged guy with a gut, but he had giant hands. So I was like, yeah, that tracks.
Ron, not everyone with dinner plate-sized hands is Michael Phelps. You got scammed.
It was wild. We stepped outside. He flapped his arms and flew away. It was the most amazing thing I ever saw. It had to be Michael Phelps. Who else could do that?
Well, a very apt story for today's episode of Perfect Strangers, which is Season 3, Episode 22, entitled, You Gotta Have Friends.
Well, that's just good advice there also. You gotta... Is this a
Friends
reference to anything, Sophia, you think?
It sure is. This could be a reference to a Bette Midler song called Friends from 1973.
Here's a real short clip.
But you got to have friends.
That's all I'm going to play.
Ooh, that's catchy.
That's the song. I'm sure everyone, that's going to be stuck in your head now.
And if you were to open the TV guide ahead of this episode, you would have read the following synopsis. Olympic gold medalist Carl Lewis has a cameo as Balky's new friend who borrows some money and then invites him to a track meet. But doubting Larry thinks the man's an imposter who took Balky's money and ran.
Oh, boy. You know, this is an odd description because it kind of just like is a big spoiler for the episode.
Yeah.
Like, apparently Carl Lewis is in the episode as well. We're going to find out
Spoiler alert.
When we're trying to determine if it's in fact Carl Lewis. They tell you already, but that's half the fun, or not. Anyway, starring, of course, Balky Bartokomous, Bronson Pinchot playing Balky, and Mark Lynn Baker playing Larry. Guest cast, Joe Marie Payton as Harriet Winslow, Hartley Silver as a ticket agent, and as appearing as himself, we just mentioned Carl Lewis. Carl Lewis is appearing as
Spoiler
one
alert.
Carl Lewis.
Yes, this episode aired on March 25th, 1988. Again, some confusion about if this episode aired and recorded in order or out of order, but March 25th is the date we have.
Also, we have made it to the end of Season 3.
We did it.
This is the last episode of Season 3 of Perfect Strangers.
Congratulations, brother and co-host. We made it. And we're also coming up just about to our 1-year anniversary of doing this podcast. Act 1. Let's get into it. So we start this episode at the Chicago Chronicle, the classic basement that we know where the guys work. And Larry is coming down from the top of the stairs with like this big pile. He's holding this stack and he's like balancing it, you know, with a big pile of books and boxes
it's
full
like
of research for something.
And binders. And
yeah, like old school research. Now it would just be all on your phone or something. But all this stuff, presumably research for a story. And he's like teetering and tottering and very slowly coming down the stairs. And Balky runs to try to help him. And Larry's like, no, I got it. And they, Balky's like, let me help. And then it almost topples over, but Balky catches the top, and then they both do a coordinated sigh. And Balky says, wasn't it lucky that I was here? And then he like recenters the pile, and then Balky says, now let me just take the top one. And Larry's like, no. And by now they're at the lower landing. The whole stack goes flying over.
Oh dear.
Over the railing. Down to the ground below, and Harriet's watching this whole thing, and here's our opening joke. She says, good thing they don't let you guys handle explosives.
Har, yeah. You know what? It's a quick opening physical gag, but I will say it was kind of beautiful choreography. There's a spin move that they do around each other. And isn't it always the thing when somebody sees you carry, you have something heavy, you're clearly, you got it. I got this heavy thing. And they're like, oh, can I help you? I'm like, no, what are you going to do? I got it. I'm holding this heavy thing right now. You can't help me. It's one of those moments. Larry's like, I got it. He had it. It would have been fine.
That reminds me, okay, quick aside story. We're not even in the story. When I used to do CrossFit a lot and we would sometimes be outside, and one time there was like a farmer's carry. You know what a farmer's carry is? Where you carry like two heavy like kettlebells, one in either hand, and you have to we had to like walk around the block or something, certain number of meters.
Right.
With heavy. And I was just like walking pretty heavy, calculating my steps, and some dude, and we're all walking in a group, right? Like at various places on the block. And some dude comes by and he's like, do you need help with that? I was like, what? Like, you really just asked me if you want to help me do this farmer's carry? I was like, get out of here.
I'm doing a farmer's carry, brah.
Yes.
It kind of defeats the purpose.
Like, what?
Well, chivalry is not dead, I guess. That's what we learned.
Nor is misogyny.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess it goes both ways.
Okay, back to Act 1.
Yes, but Larry has all these files. He's doing research for this article Balky finds out. And we actually find out Larry is not writing the article. He's just doing the research. 3 other reporters are writing it. And Balky's like, well, that hardly seems fair. But Larry's like, no, I'm learning a lot. It's great. The series is on senior citizens. And this afternoon, I interviewed a pair of elderly brothers, to which Balky suddenly gets excited. He goes, I love the elderly brothers. And he starts singing, Bye, bye, love.
Bye, love.
Bye,
bye, happiness. Which is, of course, a 1957 hit song by the Everly Brothers.
Yes, the Everly Brothers. He's close. He's 2 letters off. Oh, I love that song. And it's a great song. It's a great rock and roll, rockabilly song. And he continues singing as he helps Larry pick up all his stuff. He goes, cousin, why didn't you tell me you were meeting the elderly brothers? And Larry does the thing where he's about to explain, and then in his head, he's like, you know what? I'm not going to explain this. And then he just goes, it was last minute.
He's learned by now. And then Balky's like, okay, no problem. Tell me about it on the way to the movies. And we find out they're planning to go to the movies tonight to see Benji the Hunted. And Balky's very excited about this, but Larry's like, oh, I can't go to a movie. He has all this work to do. He's got to go through all these files and take notes on each one. And Balky says, oh, I'm sorry. I forgot how busy you've been. And Larry says, okay, enjoy the movie. And Balky says, enjoy the movie. Are you out of my mind?
Are you out of my mind?
Yes. Funny take
Get
on
out
that.
of my mind.
And he insists on staying home with Larry to help him. He said, I'll read your files and you take notes. And then he gets very excited. He picks up one of the files and he starts reading the page like really, really slow, the note, like some article. As he does. And Larry grabs it from him. He's like, I should read them myself. So Balky's like, okay. And he says, you're absolutely, I like how he says absolutely right. He says, what kind of a fool am I? And then he switches the offer. He says, Larry will read the files and Balky will take notes. And he starts to sharpen pencils. He takes a pencil and puts it in the electric sharpener and like has this childish joy about it.
It's so funny. The glee he gets from sharpening pencils is hilarious.
And then he takes another one. He just starts sharpening pencil after pencil in this electric sharpener. So he's like, bzz, yee. And so then Larry's frustrated again. Balky continues sharpening pencils. He's having lots of fun. And Larry stops him eventually and he's like, I have to take notes myself. I have my own system. And he insists that Balky go and see the Benji movie because he would feel bad if he made him miss the movie.
Aww.
And then Balky says this other very funny line. He says, please don't give it a second thought. If you need a helping hand, Balky will be there to jump in with both feet. I thought that was so funny about a hand and feet. And then he reaches down as if to help, picks up one of the box of files and like spills them all over the floor. And Larry's like, ugh, I don't need his help.
Yeah, he's doing a lot. He's not helping very well. And then we transition to the next scene later at night, and we see Larry doing a lot of research. There's papers and clips everywhere. He's taking notes, and his research involves a lot of standing up and going to the counter where there's a stack of things, walking back to the couch and sitting down and writing. I don't know what he's writing.
I don't know. This is how
copying?
research was done in the 80s.
What is this research? Are you just copying verbatim everything?
Writing notes.
Pages of what are you doing? I don't know. But he's clearly very busy, and he's very into it.
And stressed.
And he's stressed because it's a lot of work. And then Belky rushes in the front door, jumps onto the couch real hard, landing right next to him, and goes, "Cousin, you'll never guess what happened tonight." And Larry's like, "Wait, wait, Belky, let me finish. Hold on." And he's just looking at his paper. He's writing, and it's writing, and he's writing. And the whole time, Belky's like sitting next to him, tapping on his arm. And he's holding on for a really long time.
Yeah, he's like, let me finish this.
He goes,
please, let me finish this.
And then he's writing, and then he finally puts his pencil down, and it just turns and looks at Belky.
And then Belky says, "I went to see Benji the Hunted. Mind blower."
That is hilarious. Also, do you remember Benji? Benji was huge in the 80s. This dog was like the most popular dog of the 80s.
There were probably like lots of different Benji titles.
There was tons of Benji movies. Yes, like dozens. We watched some, I remember.
And we find out that it is a mind blower for Belky because the whole movie is shot from a dog's point of view. And then he's like, "Benji must have got a stiff neck from looking up all the time," which is a nice little joke. While he's talking, Larry has already gotten up to like go do more notes, consult more notes in the kitchen. Belky's just following him around, telling him the story. They come back to the couch, and he first he accidentally sits on a bunch of articles, and Larry gets annoyed, and he gets up. Anyway, he goes on with story. He says the really exciting thing happened after the movie, and Larry is back to taking notes. And he tells him again, we have a repeat of the scene. Hold on. Let me just write this down. Hold on. Let me just finish. Hold on. And Balky's like patiently waiting. Finally, Larry puts the pencil down and the paper down, looks at Balky again. And Balky goes, "Okay, I went to the Night Mart. Did you know that they let you make your own hot cocoa?"
He's so excited.
And at this point, Larry is up. Like he's not getting to the point. And Larry gets up, goes back to the counter for more research. And Balky's just off in his own tangent. Well, they do, and it's not as easy as most people think. There's a trick to it. You've got to keep stirring and stirring as you add the hot water. It entails a lot of hand-eye coordination. My goodness, what is the point of Balky's story?
They come back to the sofa, and there's the repeating joke of Balky sitting on the clips first and then getting up, sitting on the other side. And he's starting to continue, and this time Larry goes, "Balky, look. I've seen you make hot chocolate, and hey, you're the best. But I am up to my neck in senior citizens," which is like a weird saying for him to say. He goes, "So it really helped me right now if you could just save your story for later." And then the whole time, Balky's going, because and Larry's just like, "Could you do that? Could you do that for me? Could you save your story later? Please? And Balky's now in this strained, pained look on his face. He's holding his breath.
Yeah.
And he just goes, okay. Larry goes, "Thank you," and sits down and starts writing again. But then now explain what kind of convulsion Balky is going through.
Balky freezes as he is. He's like, "Okay." And he's standing, but he's like so eager to tell the story, but Larry has made him stop. And Larry sits down, goes back to his business, and then Balky just stands there where he was, his hands up, all tense, his face all scrunched, and he's like,
Yeah, you hear him squeaking. He's making squeaky noises.
Just like pained, like something's dying to come out of him, but he can't. He's holding it in. And Larry gets distracted about this too. So finally he drops what he's doing. He's like, "Okay, what's your story?"
Oh,
and Balky's like, "Okay." And he sits down and he gets so excited. He says, "I made a new friend."
Oh, fun.
And Larry's like, "Great story. I laughed. I cried. Now can I get back to my work?" Oh boy, Larry, let him tell the story. And Balky says, "No." And Larry continues working on his files, and we find out that Balky was at the Night Mart, and he sees a guy trying to make hot cocoa, but the guy doesn't know what he's doing. He's messing it all up. He's ending up with this brown glop at the bottom of his cup. Disgusting. So Balky went up to him, decided to and showed him how to make it the Balky way, which, as we know now, entails a degree of stirring. And Larry's like, "Well, that's nice. That's nice. You help someone, you make a friend." That's the way. He's like trying to brush him off and half listening.
Yeah.
That's the way it works. And Balky, again, third time, sits on the files on the couch. He's still like following Larry around back and forth. And Larry again scolds him. And then Balky gets up, moves to the other side of the couch. That's the third time we've seen that repeat physicality. And so Balky says, he ends up saying, well, it was a good thing I became his friend because I have to pay for his hot cocoa.
Oh.
And then Larry's like, you paid for his hot cocoa. Larry's still kind of
he
not
just brushes that first
attention.
one off. Yeah.
Balky says, yeah, because the friend got to the checkout counter and realized he had forgotten his wallet at home. And Larry's still kind of brushing it off. He's like, yeah, that could be embarrassing, you know. And then Balky's like, yeah, definitely embarrassing. And it was a good thing I was there because I also had to pay for his dang dongs.
Now Larry pays attention. He goes, you paid for his hot chocolate and his dang dongs? I love dang dongs. That's the best. They should call him that for real.
Dang dongs.
Yeah,
and then Balky says, yeah, I paid for his dang dongs, his double stuffed Oreos, and his scooter pies, and his Twinkies, and his 2 gallons of cookies, cream ice cream.
I love that.
I love that so much.
That's what it should be pronounced. That's what it
Cookies,
says.
cream.
Cookies. That's what it says. That's how it's spelled. That's exactly right. Nothing wrong with that. And then, so Larry goes, Balky. And then Balky interrupts him, going, cousin, I know what you're thinking. And I asked myself the very same question. Isn't this just a little too much sugar in one's diet?
It is a lot of sugar.
It is. And Larry's like, that is not what I was thinking. And Balky's like, don't worry. You'll be happy to know he didn't touch a dang dong until after his dinner. And Larry's like, dinner? And Balky goes, yes, he took me to a very expensive restaurant, as he gets up and he takes his coat off and he's about to hang it on the hook when suddenly Larry goes, wait a minute, back up, whoa. And then Balky just starts walking backwards through the apartment.
Across
the living room, almost all the way to the kitchen. It was so funny, just like he's a truck.
He takes it literally back up.
He should have made beeping sounds. That would have been hilarious.
Larry asked him to clarify, like, he took you to an expensive dinner. How did he do that if he didn't have any money to pay for this expensive dinner? And Balky says, well, I loaned him the money. And believe me, he pulled out all the stops. He insisted we have the best dinner my money could buy.
Oh, boy.
First of all, I think he pulled out all the stops. That is an accurate usage of this phrase, but that was a missed opportunity to mess with it. Like, he pulled out all the starts, he pushed out all the starts, he pulled out all the stop signs.
Yeah, that could have been
there's a lot of things you can
sometimes he gets them right.
He pulled out some of the stops, he pulled out 2 stops.
He pulled out all the pots. Would have been funny. Like, just reverse.
Yeah. Spots. He pulled out all the spots. And then he says, but cousin, this is the part you're not going to believe.
You know, this, in fairness to Larry, this sounds really bad so far.
Yeah.
And
it sounds like he's getting taken advantage.
If I was hearing this, I would be on Larry's side 100%. This sounds shady.
And Larry's like, well, it's pretty unbelievable so far. He's like totally sarcastic now. And then Balky says, my new friend is a world famous athlete. And Larry says, you're right. I don't believe that. And again, we're in 1988, right?
Yeah.
When this is taking place. And Balky says, at the 1984 Olympics, he won 4 gold medals. 2 for running, 1 for jumping, and 1 for handing someone a stick.
I love that.
Which is a relay.
The baton, yes. And then Larry goes, let me guess, Carl Lewis? And Balky goes, get out of the city. He goes, you know him too? And Larry goes, no, I don't know him, and neither do you. This Carl is a con artist. This is the second time he's had to warn Balky about a con artist. I just remembered the watch thing was the first time.
The first time was an actual con artist.
Oh, right.
So Balky is immediately like, no, he's not an artist. Have you been listening? He's a runner and a jumper and a stick hander offer.
The stick hander offer is great.
And Larry tries to explain to Balky that this new friend, Carl Lewis, is not the Carl Lewis, and he's not his friend. He says he's a fake, a fraud, a phony, and probably hypoglycemic. He has a point. Like, Carl Lewis, and Balky gets mad at Larry, right? He's like, you haven't even met him, and you're saying all these things. And Larry tries to talk sense into Balky, and Larry is actually making a lot of sense. He's like, Carl Lewis wouldn't hang out at a night market, a night grocery store. He wouldn't need money to buy his hot chocolate. He wouldn't be buying all these snacks at the late night at this grocery store.
Take you and have you pay for an expensive dinner.
Yes.
It's weird.
He's like, I'm surprised he didn't borrow money to pay for a cab. And Balky's like, only $20. Larry's like, $20. And Balky's like, well, it's all I had left. So, yeah, he did, like, to Larry, it's just sounding like some rando told Balky that he was Carl Lewis, and he left his wallet and he took all his money.
And then this is what Larry says. He tells Balky, he goes, the real Carl Lewis doesn't hang out in night marts, and he does need to borrow money from you. And now Balky understands why Larry's upset. He goes, oh, is that what's bothering you? I was wondering what you had a bee in your pants about. Wait, what is this saying?
Like ants in your pants, or a bee in your bonnet.
Yes, a bee in your bonnet and ants.
That's annoying. Yeah.
They combine two. Yes, what you had a bee in your pants about. Oh, you don't want a bee in your pants? That's very disturbing. He tells Larry that Carl Lewis is going to pay him back tomorrow at the track meet. What track meet? Balky said he told me he's in town for a track meet tomorrow. He's leaving 2 tickets at the box office. And Larry goes, okay, Balky, listen to me. There's not going to be any tickets. It's all part of this con. The guy has your money. You're never going to see him again. And Balky goes, cousin, do you know what your problem is? You don't trust people. And Larry goes, I trust some people. I just don't trust strangers who claim to be somebody famous and take all my money. Again, he's got a point.
Yes. Also, let's stop here. Like, were track meets like a spectator?
No, I thought this whole thing was kind of weird. I mean,
as a professional sport, like I know there were track meets at like schools, like high schools. You go and watch track events, but like, was it ever like a thing that general public could watch?
There are track and field events, and there are fans of the sport, and I think
I've never heard of like people going to a track meet after high school or something.
Yeah, it's kind. I mean, I don't think there's regional or like college, leading up to the Olympics. They have like the qualifiers, and it was 1988, so this could have been leading up to the next Olympics.
That's true. Yeah. Okay, so Balky insists that Larry go with him the next day to the track meet, to the box office, and when he sees those tickets, his face is going to be green with embarrassment. And that one Larry corrects right away. He says it's red with embarrassment. And there won't be any tickets. And Balky's like, there will be tickets, and you're going to come crawling to me on your hands and face.
Oh, ouch. That sounds painful.
And say, Balky, why can't I be more like you and less like me? And then he says, he excuses himself. He says, I'm going to go upstairs and take Marianne out for coffee. She'll be excited about this news. And he leaves. He walks out the door, and the door closes, and Larry just calmly reaches into his pocket, pulls out his wallet, 'cause he knows what's coming. And Balky comes back into the apartment asking to borrow money because Carl Lewis took all his money. And Larry quietly hands him a bill, and Balky leaves.
That's pretty funny. It's good timing right there. And that's the end of Act 1. And the whole mystery is set up, but we already know the answer. He did actually meet Carl Lewis. Anyways, listener, you want to find a place to hang out where other Perfect Strangers fans hang out. It's our Facebook group. There's a link in the show notes. Join it to meet other like-minded meepiates. We're all meepiates, and we're all cousins in there. And we post threads on every episode. You can leave your comments, be part of the show. We love all our cousins discussing various crazy theories and just minute details of the show. It's fantastic.
It's great. Okay, Act 2. Now, this starts with an outdoor external establishing shot of a big stadium or arena in Chicago. Did you recognize this? Is this a real
I don't know. It looks a little stock footagey. I'm not sure. Someone can look it up.
It's
also,
like fuzzy.
There was an old Chicago arena, but then that got demolished at some point. They built the other thing across the street.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if it's like some existing stadium that we still have today. But it's like kind of it's from a distance. It's fuzzy. It's nighttime.
I know. If that is an actual shot of Chicago, I don't think that building exists anymore. Okay. I don't think it does.
Anyway, then we cut to like a set. And a set of like the outdoor box office area of this
arena for
like
this track meet, right? There's a big track
this is like
this is weird.
Here's what I don't understand, right? The scene they've set up, the set is like some really shady looking. There's like graffiti. There's trash all around. There's wind and like ominous. It's like ominous
it's cold
feeling.
And it's dark and
there's
it seems
trash.
scary.
And it's seedy. But like if this was a big deal track and field event where Carl Lewis was performing, like don't you think it would be like not such a seedy place?
It's the North American Invitational Indoor Track Meet. This looks like the set where they shot Michael Jackson's Bad video. Like, what is going on here?
It looks super shady, and I just don't think that's how it would look if you were going to like a professional qualifying event or like anywhere where Carl Lewis in the 80s would be running.
It's
like,
and the thing that bothered me was like it's supposed to be outside, and it just doesn't feel like it's outside.
and it's nighttime.
And it's
like
nighttime.
it's weird.
It's a very strange.
It's a very strange scene.
Arena ticketing booth, but you see a box office. You see Balky and Larry approach the box office. Balky goes up to the box office guy, goes 2 tickets under the name of Carl Lewis. And then Balky turns to Larry and goes, ready to eat pigeon, cousin? Of course, he means crow.
The phrase is crow, yeah.
Ready to eat crow.
Eat crow.
And then Larry's like, Balky, if there's any tickets here, I'll eat pigeon, crow, any bird you want. The guy goes, I got nothing for Carl Lewis. And Balky's like, try under the name of Bartokomous. And then this is probably the most hilarious spelling of anybody's name I've ever heard. He goes, that's B-A-R-T-O with a camus at the end. And it's so funny. It's so funny how he says it. But, then he turns to Larry Bragg some more. He goes, we'll be out of here before you can say Smokey Robinson.
What is this a reference to?
I
tried to look up like all the Smokey Robinson song titles to see if there was anything.
I don't know. I don't know
about,
what that's
waiting or something taking long. I don't know.
Listen, I got nothing, which is exactly what the ticket agent tells Balky for a third time. And Balky's like, they have to be in there. Did you try under Bartokomous? B-A-R-T-O. The guy goes, I know, with a caboose at the end. But Lewis didn't leave anybody any tickets. And then Balky's like, he's a friend of mine. And the guy goes, I'm happy for you. But your friend didn't leave any tickets. And then Balky shoves his head inside the bars of the window. He goes, but it has to be in here. And Larry has to pull him out of the ticketing booth.
And Larry tries to be supportive to his what he presumes is his heartbroken friend. And he says he knows he's disappointed. And Balky's like, no, he probably just forgot. He's very forgetful. And like there's wind blowing. It's like cold. They're like
chilly.
They're like pulling their coats around themselves.
There's leaves and garbage blowing around.
It's just like
it's so weird.
A trashy little scene.
Like they're about to get mugged any minute now.
And Balky explains that Carl Lewis is very forgetful. He's like, he probably just fell asleep and forgot to set the alarm. Then he woke up. He forgot to bring the tickets, etc. And Larry is just like, I can't believe this. So he's getting frustrated. And he says, Balky, you have to understand there are people out there just waiting to take advantage of people like you. And Balky says, well, maybe, but not my friend Carl. And Larry says, your friend Carl isn't even Carl. And then Balky says, cousin, do you know what you are? You are a doubting Tomopoulos.
That's great.
And Larry doesn't even question this. He just rolls with it. Immediately says, I am not a doubting Tomopoulos.
This is the Maposian version of a doubting Thomas Tomopoulos. I'm not a doubting Tomopoulos. He says, I'm a realist who is freezing his buns off. Now, can we go home? And Balky's like, no, we came here, wait for Carl. And if you're not willing to wait for Carl, I don't know why you come here in the first place. And Larry's like, I'm there to look out for you. And look, he's giving him solid advice. He is trying to warn him about real dangers. He says he knew there wasn't going to be any tickets and then he would get hurt. And Balky goes, I'm not hurt. You've wasted your trip.
And so Larry doesn't know what to do. He's frustrated. He says, fine, you stay here in the cold. I'm going home. And Balky rolls with it. He's like, fine, go home. And Larry's like, I will. And Larry's not moving. He's just threatening. And Balky says, go home. And Larry says, you think I won't? And Balky says, no, I think you will. I'm not a doubting Tomopoulos. And Larry's like, okay, here I go. And he's still staying where he is.
That's so great.
And Balky looks at Larry's feet and back up to Larry's face. And then Larry finally turns and walks away almost. And then he comes back and he says, you're just going to stay here? And Balky says, look at me. Am I moving? Balky is like so upset and hurt. But Larry is just concerned for him.
I feel for Larry, too.
Good little conflict.
This is a great conflict because I understand both sides and you feel bad for both of them.
Right. And like no one's trying to manipulate the other one.
They're just trying to be cool and serious.
Cousins,
they're trying to be good dudes, each of them.
So Larry finally says, okay, fine. And he says, I guess there are some things you just got to learn for yourself.
Oh, man. See, he's letting his buddy learn a hard lesson. And Balky's like, I guess so. Good night, cousin. And then, but Larry does walk away. And then they cut to like the shot of Balky standing there all shivering and cold, and he's alone.
By himself,
and it
it's
looks
dark,
dangerous.
and it's night, and there's police sirens, and there's trash blowing around, and it's cold, and there's graffiti. It's just a weird set for a track meet.
This is supposed to be a wholesome running and stick-handing offing event.
But they're setting up this mood for like,
they are.
We think Balky is going to get taken advantage of in this like dangerous setting.
That's the end of Act 2. Will Balky get mugged? Will Carl Lewis eventually show up? Of course he will. He's in the guest list. He's in the cast. Before we get to Act 3, you can support the show, listener. Buy us a virtual coffee. It's a little virtual tip jar. Visit our website, danceofjoypod.com/support. Only if you enjoy the show. Nobody's forcing anybody to do anything. We appreciate everyone listening, but sometimes a little monetary tip goes a long way. Everybody's got some change lying around, right, sister?
Yeah, we got to have something in the pockets to pay for Carl Lewis's hot chocolate.
In the meantime, look, the show will always be free, so enjoy the entertainment and the nostalgia. Buy us a coffee. Visit the website. Act 3, sister.
Act 3. Now we're back at the apartment, and Larry is on the phone, and he's panicked, and he's trying to find Balky, and he's talking to someone on the phone. He says, "How long has the track meet been over? Are you sure there's no one there?"
Oh, he's worried.
"I know you're there, but I left my cousin standing outside the box office, et cetera, et cetera." He's like, "Can you just go and check for me?" And then he breaks for a moment, and then into the phone, he's like, "Oh, well, that's real nice. That's real clever. Well, let me tell you something, Buster. I'm rubber and you're glue. Everything you say bounces off me and sticks to you." I mean, that got a laugh from the audience, but I just thought that was a weird spot for a weird joke.
Yes, like it's supposed to be all serious. And he goes to the old "I'm rubber, you're glue"
and like,
playground tactic.
Why would anyone curse him out? He's just like looking for someone.
I like also the audio cue in the transition scene over. People mention this in our Facebook group, and how there's you hear like a siren, police siren, when it's like the exterior shot.
Yeah.
Even further setting up the what's gonna happen? What happened to Balky? But you got to shove a joke in here or there. I don't know. I
thought it wasn't a super huge payoff, and it was just like a weird place to put it.
This is great. Larry slams the phone down. He goes, "I'll find him myself." He starts for the door. He gets his jacket, and just as he opens the door, Balky literally comes flying into the apartment, runs, flips over the back of the couch, lands on his back, rolls off into a chair neatly.
And he says, "That's called a Fosbury flop."
That's great. You know what the Fosbury flop is? You should explain this. It's pretty crazy.
The Fosbury flop is a technique that was used in the high jump. You know, where they jump over, you run with a stick and jump over that pole. It's like the opposite of a limbo.
Right. Just run and get over this stick somehow. However you could do it, you got to get over this stick.
And there was a guy called Dick Fosbury who was an Olympic medal winner in 1968. And this is named after him, this move. And it involves jumping over the high jump bar backward. And apparently this Fosbury flop revolutionized the sport. Dick Fosbury was the Simone Biles of the high jump.
Leave it to Dick Fosbury, which I find this fascinating because, your whole life you watch the Olympics, you watch these track and field events, you see everybody doing this high jump back first, and you're
backward, like how did they do it before? Forward?
Yes, but at first I'm like, that makes sense, but I never thought about, wait a minute, who figured out the way to do this? They used to jump forward, like one leg
head
over, top down.
No.
Head over.
Like head over, and then you flip over after on the other side.
I think at the time, whatever was the best way you could do it, that you thought you would do it. But I think a lot of people went head first.
I imagine, head first, like a dive. Yeah.
But you could also scissor your legs over probably and get up that. I don't know.
Yeah, but then you have to get even higher.
Then you get high. Yeah. So did this guy just go? Yeah. But then at what point does Dick Fosbury go? You know what? If I run and then turn backwards and bend over this thing, I can get. Well, how do you get there? How do you get there? It's wild.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's so crazy.
But that's the Fosbury flop. I don't know. I've never jumped over.
I love that it's an Olympic reference too. Ties into the theme of the show.
Yeah.
So Larry is he's just he's very worried. He goes, "Balky, it's 1 a.m. Where have you been?" And Balky's like, funny, funny story, cousin. Not 2 minutes after your compact little legs carried you away. He does have little legs. He says Carl Lewis came running out of the stadium, apologized for not leaving the tickets, and swept Balky into the stadium. And Balky goes, there were no seats left, so he had to give me a press pass. Larry's like, a press pass? And Balky goes, it gets better.
It gets better.
And Larry goes, I'm sure it does. Balky goes, cousin, it was so much fun inside that stadium. Everybody's running and jumping and throwing things.
Yes. That's track and field, running and jumping and throwing.
And that's all it is. Yeah, this you got to be good at. And Larry goes, okay, Balky, are you trying to tell me that Carl really showed up? And Balky goes, cousin, half of communication is being a good listener. Because he's just like, he doesn't get it. He's like, I'm sorry to rub it in. I know how embarrassed you must be by being completely wrong, but I was just so happy when Carl showed up. And then he jumps on the couch again like a little kid.
And Larry is still not buying it. Now, Larry, what we find out next is that Larry thinks that Balky is lying and making this up to save face, but which is a weird thing because Larry has known Balky now for 3 seasons.
Right.
Like, he should know how honest he is, right?
Yeah.
But he says, Balky, listen to me. And then Balky like leans forward and puts his hand on his elbow to listen attentively on the couch. It's very cute. And Larry tells him this story. He says, I know what you're doing because in junior high, I told Bobby Caruso that Henry Aaron was a friend of my dad's. By Henry Aaron, he means
Hank Aaron, the baseball
Hank Aaron, the
player.
world-class baseball player. Was a friend of my dad's, and he was coming over for dinner that weekend. And he's like, the next day, every kid in the 8th grade begged me for his autograph. And Balky's like, Bobby Caruso's? And he says, no, Henry Aaron's. So what did he do? He had to save face. So he spent the whole weekend signing pieces of paper with Henry Aaron's autograph. And he said he stooped to forgery to avoid humiliation. And he asked Balky, do you see what I'm getting at? And Balky says, of course I do. Don't be ridiculous. But shouldn't you be telling all of this to Bobby Caruso? So he doesn't really get his point. He's just enjoying the story.
Yes, fun story.
And Larry tells him the point is that when you've been hurt, you don't have to make up a story to save face. And Balky now is very hurt and shocked. Because he realizes that Cousin Larry doesn't believe him.
It gets serious for a bit here. They're both sitting on the sofa, and this next bit is like very, very sincere as Larry goes, Balky, this is Cousin Larry you're talking to. And Balky goes, cousin, ever since I've known you, I've never lied to you. And he goes, and even before I knew you, I never lied to you. And he goes, before I never lied to you, I never lied to anyone, not even the littlest sheep in my flock.
And Larry's still not convinced. Like, that's not enough. Larry doesn't realize, you know what? You're right. Balky never lies. But he's still not convinced of that. And he says, you're going to stick to your story? And Balky's like, it's not a story. It's the truth. And Larry says, okay, fine. Carl Lewis is your friend. I'm happy for you. And Balky's like, he is. And Larry says, hey, I believe it. So what did you and Carl do after the meet? Hit the night mart and throw down a couple of hot chocolates?
Now he's being all condescending. Larry to and Balky goes, now you're making fun of Balky. And Larry's like, look, let's forget the whole thing. I got to turn in because I got a big day tomorrow. I'm playing a handball with the Pope as he gets up and walks to the front door. As Larry passes the front door, there's a knock on the door. And Larry goes, oh, that must be Morgan Fairchild. I met her at the laundromat, Wait, we got to pause
Morgan
here.
Morgan Fairchild is an actress.
Can I pause? Yeah, Morgan Fairchild's an actress, has been on a lot of soaps. I'm going to pause real quick here because in the 90s, when I was in art school in New York, I worked at Starbucks on Manhattan in Columbus Circle, and I served coffee to one Morgan Fairchild.
You did?
Out of the city.
She came in because it was near like...
Did you know who she was?
Oh, absolutely. I was like, oh my God, this is Morgan. I even told her...
I don't know that I
think I told her. Oh, I absolutely recognized her. Because she was she was off of Friends. Like, Friends kind of made her popular again. But she played Rachel's mother, I believe.
Oh, right. Okay, okay.
And then she was doing soap operas again, hardcore. So she's very recognizable. And I think I was like, I love all your work. I said something dumb. I don't remember. But I did serve Starbucks coffee to Morgan Fairchild.
What did she order?
I don't remember. I think it was just a latte. Just a plain old latte.
Okay, good.
But when he said that, I was like, oh my God. I remember I saw Morgan Fairchild once. Also, Heavy D came into the store once. There was a couple of celebrities that would pop in. It was weird.
Oh my God, I would go nuts if.
They're just regular people. They put their pants on.
What did Heavy D order?
No, he was actually buddies with somebody who worked there. One of my coworkers. He was waiting for him. They were going to go hang out. I was like, oh my God, you know Heavy D?
So cool.
That's what happens in New York City. It's just that's what happens.
Anyway, Larry is still like sort of being sarcastic. He's like, there's a knock at the door. Oh, that must be Morgan Fairchild, blah, blah. And and Balky like walks away and goes to the kitchen. Larry opens the door. And who is standing there? Carl Lewis.
Oh, it's Carl Lewis. He's actually in the episode.
And Larry just opens the door and he's just staring at him in shock. And Carl Lewis says, I'm looking for Balky Bartakamus. And Balky comes out of the kitchen and he says, Carl, come in. Like completely
I love how
calmly.
He says this. Yeah, no, he's in the fridge. He closes the door. His head pops out. He's like, oh, Carl, come in. What's up, dude? Like, they're just like bros. It was such good delivery of that.
It is such a juxtaposition of like this energy from before and this childlike excitement the whole episode. And now he's there and he's like, Carl, come in. But wouldn't you think he'd be like, I told you?
No, because he knows.
In your face, cousin Larry.
He knows and he wants to savor this and he wants to milk it, which is what he kind of does. That's why he's like, I'm just going to play it cool. Like, it's no big deal. And it's fantastic. It's like, what's up?
And Carl's like, hey, Balky, how you doing? And he comes in, he passes Larry, and then he gives Balky some photos, some autographed photos. He said, you left these in the limousine. And Balky's like, oh, thank you. And Larry is just like staring there, jaw open,
you're
jaw to the
Carl
ground.
Lewis.
He's like, you're Carl Lewis. And Carl was like, yeah. And then Balky is looking at these photographs. He says, this is a funny line. He says, Harriet is going to love these. She's a big, big, big fan of yours and your brother, Jerry. Carl Lewis just like
what?
What?
Jerry Lewis and Carl Lewis. Hilarious.
So then he turns to Larry. He says, you must be Larry. Balky talks about you all the time. And Larry cannot move on. He just keeps saying, you're Carl Lewis.
So funny.
And he goes, I was the last time I looked at myself. And he says again,
you're Carl Lewis.
And then he just Carl Lewis puts his hand on Larry's shoulder and he's like, woof. And then he starts to leave. And Balky says, and he says, next time I'm in town, I'm going to give you a call. And Balky's like, okay, bye, Carl. And listen, if you need a place to crash, feel free. And he's like, cool. And he goes, and nice talking to you, Larry. And Larry just starts babbling like gibberish.
He goes,
and then Carl Lewis leaves. And Larry says, that was Carl Lewis.
Carl Lewis.
And Balky's like, yes, it was. And he goes to the couch and he crosses his legs. He sits down and he just smiles.
Oh, boy. Now there's a lot
waiting for the in-your-face
brilliant,
moment.
awkward, silence, facial expressions here because everybody knows what's just happened. And now Larry, he looks like a complete idiot here.
So this is where I think lesson time starts, even though the music comes a little bit later. Larry kind of like shuffles over to the couch. He's still stunned and he kind of like nervously says, I didn't believe you. And Balky's like waiting and like about to enjoy this apology.
He has a huge smile on his face the whole time Balky does.
He's like, nope, no, you didn't. And then Larry says, Carl must think I'm a real jerk. And Larry says, I think that's a distinct possibility.
That's what Balky says.
And Larry is like, remorseful of having made fun of Balky, and Balky says he forgives him, and he says to Larry, you were just trying to protect me. And Larry says, I was. And then Larry says, I promise from now on I will never doubt you ever again.
Oh,
and Balky's
really?
like, what? Really? And he says, never, ever, never, never. And Balky says, never. And Larry says, if you say it, I'll believe it. And then we get into this funny little end bit. Balky thinks, and he says, well, what if I said I had dinner with the mayor? And Larry says, I'd ask what he ordered. And Balky goes, okay. What if I said that NASA wants me to be an astronaut? And Larry says, I'd mix up a pitcher of Tang.
Tang? The drink of astronauts.
Yes.
Do they still make that?
And then Balky's like really getting into this. And then he thinks a little bit more. He says, what if I said, and now we hear the lesson time music here. What if I said that I bought a handful of magic beans and I threw them out the window and they grew up into a beanstalk and it reached through the clouds and I climbed up it and I met a giant who wrestled me and I came down with his golden goose? And Larry just is quiet for a moment and then he says,
squirming.
I'd believe you. And then Belky's like, oh, cousin, show a little judgment. I could lose my mind, you know. And roll credits. So what was the lesson there? There wasn't really a resolution. Like, they were both trying to do good things. Like, Balky was telling the truth and trying to tell a story about meeting Carl Lewis, and Larry was just trying to protect him. And I don't think the lesson should be like, I won't ever try to protect you again. I'll just believe you even if you were scammed.
No, this is kind of a muddy mixed
like
lesson.
Weird,
actually,
yeah.
There's nothing was they were both right.
Yeah.
Nothing. Just always believe Balky. Yes, that's the lesson.
Yeah, Balky doesn't lie. I think is like by nature, Balky doesn't lie, but he could be duped.
We'll get into a couple moments where he did lie on the show. Before that, though, listener, I will tell you. What if I said go buy a Dance of Joy podcast T-shirt? Where would you get that? Why, at our T Public shop, danceofjoypod.com/shop. It has lovely niche podcast T-shirts, hoodies, accessories, face masks, mugs, lots of fun stuff.
What if I told you that Carl Lewis has a Dance of Joy T-shirt?
Oh my God, I believe you. I believe you. Hey, I believe that guy with the gut was Michael Phelps. So, you know, I'm like Balky there. But for a season finale, what do you think of like a season 3 ending? Like, this is before the time series had like big season finales. It was just like another episode. And that's
they had like a celebrity.
Yeah, that's pretty big. That's pretty big.
Deal.
Carl was funny too.
And Carl
he
Lewis
did a good
was
job.
a big deal in the 80s. And still is.
And then the tie-in is that the creators of Perfect Stranger, they came up with the idea for the show during the 84 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles.
That's right, when everyone was like super rah-rah America and they were thinking of this idea of like having a foreigner
culture clash. What would happen?
Exactly.
So that's a nice little loop.
So that's probably why they had Carl Lewis on this episode. So let's talk about this episode. I think there are some weird things. Like we talked about the basic conflict. It's super legitimate on both sides. Larry's trying to protect him. He thinks Balky's being conned, and Balky's like, no, I met Carl Lewis and he's my friend now. But it is weird that Carl Lewis was at a night mart buying all this junk food. On the one hand, I guess like athletes who work out so hard could probably eat a lot of junk food and get away with it because they're burning calories all the time. But like, would they really? I don't know. Maybe
he was driving by and he just had a craving and he's like, I need some dang dongs.
But if you're Carl Lewis,
you get somebody to bring
you have those snacks in your limo already or whatever?
He's in a limousine, I guess. That's a celebrity.
Or like have somebody to go to the mart to pick it up for you.
You should be eating the Wheaties with your picture on the box, Carl. What are you doing?
First of all, would you be eating dang dongs? Secondly, wouldn't somebody else be stocking those, and wouldn't you have a way? I don't know. It was all for the sake of story. And like, would Carl Lewis have to actually pay for stuff himself? I don't know.
That is odd. But I did like the way it's set up where you can relate to both sides. And you're like, you know what? I see this. And also it could be Carl Lewis. Maybe. But I see Larry's, why Larry would be suspicious.
And wouldn't it have been nice at the end when, he came with the pictures to be like, oh, and here's the cash I owe you for the dinner and the dang dong.
That would have been, that would have been interesting. No, but he showed up and gave him the tickets and gave him the money earlier.
Maybe he already did.
But and then just the whole notion of like a track meet in this weird set.
And
is
a
also
track
very
meet.
strange.
Yeah, I thought track meet in general. But maybe in the 80s, it was like a big deal after the Olympics where he was big. Maybe people were watching.
Listen, people are into track and field exactly every 4 years, and that's it. And for a few months, and that's it.
That's right.
And then they forget about it. We have all. Did you watch this past Olympics? We had an Olympics, about a year delayed, 5 years. It was the 2020 Olympics in 2021, And I don't even know, like, was it?
Sha'Carri Richardson was in the news.
Yeah, and so, we got Simone Biles and other stuff, and it was kind of buzzy, and people talked about it, but I feel like it wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't like that big of a deal as it used to be.
It's not as big a deal as it used to be in terms of, like, something that unites us behind the American spirit.
It's so weird, how different, because I remember the Miracle on Ice hockey team and how big that was, and, like, 84, and watching the Olympics when I was little, I don't know. I still watch them, it's fun.
No, 84 was Summer Olympics. So
right.
The hockey team.
Oh, well, but they used to hold it at the same time, the same year, the Summer and Winter Olympics.
Interesting.
And then they split, then they staggered us. Anyways, enough about the Olympics.
Anyway, we have some good Balkyisms in this episode. We know that he loves the elderly brothers.
Or Everly Brothers. He loves both of them.
Are you out of my mind? I like that one.
If you need a helping hand, Balky will be there to jump in with both feet.
And then he talks about dang-dongs.
I was wondering what you had a bee in your pants about. Oh,
your face is going to be green with embarrassment.
The wrong color.
Oh, this is a good one. Crawling to me on your hands and face.
Again,
That's
sounds painful.
Image.
Like, how do you do that? Your face is dragging. Ready to eat pigeon, cousin? We don't know the Smokey Robinson. We'll be out of here before you can say Smokey Robinson. I have no idea what that one's about.
And he calls Larry a doubting Tomopoulos.
Don't be ridiculous, said once.
Of course I have. Don't be ridiculous.
And there was a Get Out of the City, and there was a Balky from Larry.
Yeah, it would have been nice, if this was in an era where, like, season finales were a big deal. It would have been nice to, like, have a Dance of Joy in here.
Something they build up to, like, a big, but there's no, like, ongoing story plot. Like, the girls aren't even in it.
Yeah, it's like it was before continuous stories in sitcoms.
They were just one-offs, filmed out of order, and aired willy-nilly, I guess.
Yep. Okay. Did we see Dimitri in this episode?
Yes, you can see Dimitri on the right side of the bookcase in the back there. Looks like Dimitri is wearing, like, little track shorts, and he's holding a stick, a baton, a stick hander offer. He's a stick handy thing, stick handing guy. Yeah, stick passer guy.
And speaking of Dimitri, let's travel over to one of our favorite Instagram pages, run by the very one and only Dimitri Sheep himself. If you're not aware of this Instagram, I like to call it a spin-off Instagram page of our show. It's called Dimitri Sheep, Dimitri.
It's like a compliment. Yes.
It is a complimentary Instagram account to this podcast run by Dimitri Sheep himself. And Dimitri posts themed images per every episode. And so the one for this episode, the location is tagged as Central Illinois Diabetes Solutions. And we see now, usually there's, like, in these posts, there are several, like, hints and clues and references to the episode. This one is pretty simple.
I like it, though. It's bold.
Effective.
Yeah, it's great composition. Yeah. It's simple. Yes.
We see Dimitri Sheep on a table. The tablecloth is bright blue. Yeah. And on the table in front of him is a box of double stuffed Oreos and a plate of Oreos, of the double stuffed Oreos on them, and a jar of milk with a straw coming out of it.
It's an old, like, glass of milk too, which I like. And you gotta have the double stuffed Oreo. Look, if you're gonna eat the Oreos, you got just get the double stuff. What are you doing buying the single stuff?
Reference double stuff Oreos
in this episode?
Yeah, when he's talking about all the things he paid for.
Yes, that was one of the things with the
paid
dang
for his dang dongs, his double stuffed Oreos, scooter pies, his Twinkies.
Scooter pies, that's right.
And his 2 gallons of cookies cream ice cream.
That's why I forgot about the Oreos, because the cookies cream joke overtook the whole thing. That's right. Yeah. He did end up paying for Carl Lewis's double stuffed Oreos. And these are them. I think Dimitri saved some of them from back then, and these are still them.
Yes, maybe Carl gifted
They're
him
not
the
stale at all.
Oreos.
Yes.
So that is the Dimitri Sheep post for this episode. It's simple. It's effective. We love it. Please go over to Dimitri Sheep on Instagram and follow that account. And now it's time for the segment of our show that we call Perfect Strangers Today, or PS Today, in which we talk about, if this story were to happen today, would it still hold up? How would things be different in the episode? What things would get modernized? I think this story would not hold up in
Absolutely
today's
not.
times at all.
This
because-
episode would be 30 seconds long because Balky would just be
Yeah.
like, cousin, look, I met Carl Lewis. Here's a picture of me and him on his phone.
Yeah, you
Boom,
would take
roll
pictures of the
credits.
celebrity, and every step, every scene in this would not hold up because, like, I was thinking, like, after Larry leaves, you know, Balky said 2 minutes later, Carl Lewis came running out. Balky would just call Larry and be like, "Come back,
Wait,
he's here."
Come right, turn around.
Or Balky would call Carl Lewis and be like, "Where are you? Where are the tickets?" Everything would be different.
Also, tickets are all like digital now. You can get them texted to you, emailed to you.
Right.
There's no like actual printout.
And even from the beginning, when, let's say, Balky met him in the night and didn't take a picture of him, like, Larry, like, my first thought, if you came home and said, like, I met somebody, or like the other day, like one time I was
This one time
walking through DC and I saw Dave Grohl in a restaurant through a window, like just sitting, having dinner with people. And I was like, oh my God, it's Dave Grohl.
He's recognized.
And I would come home and I came home and what did I do? I Googled like where Dave Grohl on this date. And sure enough, he was in town for a show or whatever. I'm like, yeah, so that was definitely Dave Grohl.
So you could do the thing where Balky forgot his phone and he met Carl Lewis, right? And
so he comes home and if Larry doesn't believe him, he'd be like, look, let's look him up. Sure. Yes, he's at this track meet. He's here for this tomorrow. It's real.
But then maybe or maybe the information would be wrong and he's not there and it's a surprise. I don't know. I don't know.
How would you
keep it
still
going?
keep this story in an episode? I don't know that this story would hold up.
And a celebrity would have to have forgotten their wallet, their phone, their face. Like the person would not be able to recognize. Be like, oh, you're clearly this guy. I'll let you take this. To like not have money to pay for anything.
Yeah.
Or there's assistance or
like what if Dave Grohl was at that restaurant and was like, whoops, I forgot my wallet.
The guy would be like, you know what, you're Dave Grohl. That's fine.
Yeah,
Let's take a photo. I'll call it even. Can you sign this for me?
Yeah, they'd be like, anything for you, Dave
on the
Grohl.
house,
Or like,
Dave
come
Grohl.
back and like they wouldn't have him like in the back washing dishes.
This is one of those episodes that have to be completely just reworked.
To suspend your disbelief to make it.
There would have to be a lot of just crazy, convenient, contrived things that you could kind of make it funny.
You could do it. It would be a stretch. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to shout outs and listener comments or fan comments about this episode.
Yeah.
So we do have our cousins who have lively discussions in our Facebook group about this episode. The first up is Evelyn Behar. Cousin Evelyn says, the inner child in Balky is huge in this episode. The sheer joy at sharpening pencils and being allowed to make his own hot chocolate. The complete inability to inhibit and wait for Larry to finish writing something before speaking, the focus on sweets, Benji the hunter, the childlike trust, the imaginary friend-like theme, the Jack and the Beanstalk fantasy. What's interesting is that when Carl shows up at the apartment at the end, Balky takes on an adult man tone and walk. Carl, come in.
What's up, Carl?
Nice contrast, very effective.
It's perfect.
Yes, I agree.
It's perfect. I love that. That delivery was like, Carl, come in. And then his demeanor, I was like, oh my God, that's hilarious. It's so good how they did that. Cousin John checking in saying, this is a lower ranking episode for me. We all saw the ending coming. And there wasn't enough physical comedy for my taste. It feels like a first season episode to me.
Interesting.
I mean, I get that. It is very kind of basic.
Yeah.
But
what about the Fosbury flop?
The Fosbury flop was amazing. He went flying through the air, bounced off the thing, and we learned about how that happened.
And then there was a fun exchange between a couple of our cousins about a pickle jar. And we didn't mention this
Where
yet.
is this pickle jar?
In the beginning, when they're in the apartment and Larry and Balky are having this argument, Larry's trying to tell him, like, Carl Lewis is not really Carl Lewis. And Balky's saying, no, he is. You don't even know him. While they're having this, Balky had gone to the refrigerator and this is like after he's presumably come back from the dinner and the dang dongs, the first meeting with Carl Lewis. And he pulls out this like huge jar of pickles and he's trying to like open it while they're talking. It's just like a random thing. So here's the conversation that I thought was very interesting in our group. Cousin Evelyn says that Costco-sized jar of pickles is really something else. Like, who's the guy or lady on set who's responsible for deciding that they're going to pull out a humongous jar of pickles from the fridge? These are the questions that plague me late at night.
Yes.
And then Cousin Pam Hitchcock says, I guess I'm more of a why person. Why did Balky want a pickle at that moment? Why were unopened pickles in the fridge? Why did he abandon his attempt to open the jar? Did he just want to swiftly leave a doubting Laropolis?
Those are all good questions.
Then there's what? And then cousin Evelyn responds to that saying, exactly. Hadn't he just gone out to a very fancy dinner? Does he have a sodium deficiency that's inducing pickle cravings? Certainly, if he can't open the jar, Larry can't either. So who opens these jars and how often is a new one purchased? These questions are key to understanding perfect strangers.
I have some hunks. I have a theory. I think on Me Posts, you know how at the end of a dinner, traditionally, instead of eating something sweet, you have to eat something pickled.
Maybe.
It's just what the king of Meepos did while he was swimming across.
It's like pickled pig snout usually.
Yes.
But maybe.
And then what we didn't see off screen is Balky just smashing the jar on the floor. Because those things are impossible to open. Yes. And that's how they open the pickles. But those are all great questions. And it was a random. I wonder how much thought went into that. Or they were just like, we need Balky to hold something here. And guys like, here's a big jar of pickles.
A pickle jar. Yeah.
So,
maybe it was just what was around.
And put it in. I got this from the moonlighting set. Can we use it? They're like, sure. But did that pickle jar, did he ever go back and eat the pickle? I don't know. That'll keep me up at night now.
I don't know.
This is why I love our Facebook group. Those are all fantastic queries.
Very good insights.
Yes.
And that wraps up this week's episode.
And
Join us again
3.
next week. We have wrapped up season 3, which means next week we have our Dance of Joy season break special.
It's going to be fun, listener. There may be a special guest. There may be some games. There may be some fun audio to share. I don't know. You're going to have to stick around.
I don't know. Join us again. Find out what kind of fun. Listen, last time we did a season break special, we ended up inspiring some Instagram accounts.
Yeah, remember
so
we had a top 5 Balky duds with Rainey joining us, and then we played some. Did we play some games? Yeah, I played some trivia.
We spoke into the universe the idea for the Dimitri Sheep account, and then it was.
It's a fun time to just like geek out about perfect strangers and put it out into the universe. We're gonna have a lot of fun. Don't miss it. In the meantime, visit our website, danceofjoypod.com, for all the links to how to support the show, how to get some podcast swag, how to find the show. Clearly, you're listening to it, so you don't need to know how to find the show because you found the show right now. But you can leave us a rating on the website, and it pops up. I'll feature it on the website. You can get in touch via your voice or by electronic mail and typing out words. You'll also find links to all our social media accounts. Follow us there. But the most important thing a listener should do, Sophia, is what?
Get 8 hours of sleep every night.
Yes, and drink lots of water. Stay hydrated. Lots of rest. But then the other after you've done all that, share the show with a friend, family member who wants to relive the 80s and TGIF, and or someone who has not ever seen the show and you think they would enjoy it because it's timeless and it's still hilarious. Now we are so happy. Thanks for listening, listener. We are so happy now.
Now we are so happy we do the dance of joy.
Hey,